TV show. We are there now. And I believe our co-host will be joining us ever so shortly. Oh. Well, in the meantime, technology is both extremely emancipating, but when it doesn't work, it is worse than anything. It's just like, it just so frustrating, and particularly if you're not a geek, and you don't understand everything that's going on, then technology is almost a bigger barrier as it is a
freedom.
That's freedom, yeah. I know, we're good, aren't we?
I feel like as the youngest host, I'm supposed to be tech savvy. I'm not. I can do kind of Excel. I can do all the worky things, but when it comes to
However, we do know that we are in fact live because we have a second screen running with the Together stream in it, and then it is coming across with a little bit of a delay. I'm not sure how long it is.
It's about 10-15 seconds probably.
So it's very weird because I can see myself speaking and then see myself saying the same thing again.
And they said time travel is not possible.
Yeah, I am in two places. No, I'm in the same place at two different times at the same time. Yeah, that's philosophically impossible.
I mean, you look into a mirror, you see it into the past, definitely.
No, the same thing cannot exist in two different places at the same time. And apparently it can.
Well, I'm not going to get into quantum mechanics on the live stream, but it can.
Oh, you can see us finally.
We can see you, yeah.
Virus.
We've just been explaining the impossibility of time travel.
Yeah, I've been listening to that. I think cheeky so-and-so is going on about technology. We're very, very good at technology, but unfortunately we can't control the internet. And that really is a massive issue. Or indeed the assistant's dog that's going to be barking away in the background. I understand yesterday Google actually had an outage. So that's really made my 6 hours trying to work out what had gone wrong with the broadcast rather redundant. But... Anyway, now we're all here on the virtual sofa. Let's have some introductions. I'm Ju Gosling. I'm an artist and the artistic director of Together 2012. And we're sitting in my studio in Canning Town, not usually used for live streaming, it has to be said. It's so interesting how the world has changed because I used to think, I'd never want to do a live stream and I'd never want to let strangers see inside my studio. And all of a sudden it's kind of, come on in. Everybody's welcome, including Julie, who's living here for the duration, and I'm going to pass her the mic.
Hi, I'm Julie Newman, the chair of Together 2012.
Well, that was brief and to the point. Thank you.
Okay, well,
I'm back to Birmingham.
Okay, so I'm Robin Surgener. I'm on the board at Together, and as the business director, should know my own title, shouldn't I? And I am also an artist. I'm working under the name of Angry Fish. Well, I'll pass over to him.
I'm Josh Surgener. I'm the business director's son at Together 2012. I'm a uni student without a university at the moment, so I've travelled down the M1 to come home during the lockdown.
Yeah, and I think there's an awful lot of students in your position, aren't they? Sort of locked up with their parents to just practicing for later, really, when you graduate.
Yeah, I don't know how happy the parents are.
I was going to say, can we not have it as locked in with a student as opposed to locked in with his parents?
I would say that, Robin, but I'm not entirely sure that would be Josh's perspective. So we're all part of Together 2012, which was set up by disabled artists ourselves back in 2013 to ensure there was an ongoing cultural legacy for the Paralympics. We're based in the main London 2012 host borough of Newham, which has got the lowest level of cultural engagement in the UK still, and I suspect as they've just shut our only arts centre, it's going to get worse before it gets better. But we organise a free year-round programme of creative workshops for all disabled people who want to turn up from wherever they live and whatever impairment group they come from, and also exhibitions, performances, screenings, street dance, carnival, just about any art form you can think of, led by disabled artists for everybody. Going back to what we were saying about introducing ourselves and opening up our homes in a way that we would never have dreamed of doing before coronavirus, we've each been screening a little introductory film. Julie's is ready for next week, but there's a very nice one from the Surgeoners. If people can just bear with me while I try our new setup, where in theory I can control everything remotely, but it's not quite working out like that. And as people will realise, we're already 24 hours plus late because of yesterday's Google outage. So I think we're going to celebrate the anarchy that is very much a root part of our organisation. Julie's going to hold the microphone. Yeah, I know that the arm keeps coming and I keep hanging on to it. Here we go. And while we screen this film, if I can get the right film up, indeed, I may just disappear to try and make sure that the assistant's dog is okay. But let's see if we can get your film up first.
Hi, and welcome to The Surgeoners at Home. This is Josh working in our kitchen. Let me take you around a bit and introduce you to the fish, or at least this fish. Okay, now moving through to our lounge. I'm going to introduce you to the next member of the household. Emily, say hi.
Hi.
And a quick look at the garden on this lovely day. Okay, and our next shot introduces us to Princess at the front and Baby at the back. Two feline members of the Surgeoner household who, as ever, are doing nothing, taking full advantage of their isolation status. This next shot brings you to my life-size, or in fact perhaps bigger than life-size, portrait of Prince, done by the disabled artist Rory Baird. I have another of his pictures which I will show you shortly. And here is Tracy, this is Mrs. Surgeoner, who is getting ready to go nowhere, putting on her best glad rags to stay in and enjoy yourselves. So this is where things get messy. So this is our second fish tank, and that is the angel fish come to say hello. It is very friendly, and don't believe anyone that tells you that fish don't remember stuff. We'll swing round Emily's nest chair. She likes to sit in and read, covered with a duvet so she can pull it over herself and be completely isolated. And this is the space that we are actually using to record the Together show. Here is my other picture by Rory Baird, painted in the colours of autism. It is a portrait of Andy Warhol. And lastly, this is me at my desk in my studio space. And hi, great to see you all. Must remember that camera angle for reducing the visibility of chins. Obviously it's the camera angle that made me look like I've got too many chins.
It wasn't the too many chins, it was
It's the angle of the camera. Yeah.
I was intrigued by the fish because I'm still in that thing where you said right at the beginning when we started this show that you knew how many fish you'd got and I haven't. I'm going to leave you to chat again because I can hear this noise that makes me strongly suspect the assistant's dog has got to the cat food. But if you'd like to introduce today's art form topic of poetry and perhaps even have a look at Josh's poem, I'm just going to switch us off.
Okay, well, so Wednesday's art form for every Wednesday is the idea of poetry. Obviously, we are not at the moment able to run the pop-up poetry club. which is normally extremely well attended, and a great way of kind of sharing space, sharing ideas. So at the moment, Wednesday will be online, will be our poetry day instead of meeting, but we'll be meeting online. And part of the program for being at home at the moment and joining in together is the idea that anyone can write a poem, and we would like as many people as possible to write a poem, either entitled or on the subject of together. So Joshua, that's him.
That's me.
Still, the Surgeonator, has put some words together, and probably the first poem he's written
Since about year 8 English homework, probably, I think.
Since about year 8 English homework, yes.
It's a few years ago now, at this point.
So young. Anyway.
I don't feel young. I might look it, but I don't feel it.
Yeah. Anyway, I will pass you over to Joshua now, who is going to read his poem called Together.
What is together? What is togetherness? A thought, a feeling, an abstract state of being. In uncertain times, our focus drifts from we to me, stuck inside with a sense of ennui. But in order to fight the gloom, the impending cloud of doom, we must unite, act as a societal guiding light. We must highlight the heroes, lift up those who are isolated, feeling cast aside like zeros. Celebrating life and love, celebrate the bright and the good. Together we can create a thought, a feeling, an abstract state of being, of strength, of might, united despite.
I was mightily impressed, actually. I mean, and strangely enough, I think it comes across even more powerfully as a performed poem, because you're able to put into it the emotion, your emotion.
Yeah.
And that's awesome, fantastic. So well done, Josh.
Thank you.
No, it's all right. I mean, I would say that even if you weren't my son.
Oh, okay, thanks.
I'd probably be nicer if you weren't my son.
I mean, obviously.
Yeah.
You can't be seen to like your children.
Not on camera.
Yeah, obviously.
So anyway, and I mean, I don't have anything to hand. I've been desperately trying to put something together myself, and I've got lots of ideas, but they're not ready to be foisted on you yet. I'm wondering, just as a thought, how many of us are planning in some way or other to take part in the thank you to the NHS, which is again planned for 8 o'clock this evening.
Yes,
I should get the time right. Definitely 8 o'clock this evening. And if you're not able to go outside or not able to clap for whatever reason, or can't get to a window, maybe you could write your own few lines, and just say them out loud. That the act of just making your thoughts out loud can be really emancipating and send that message up to the ether, and whoever it gets to, who knows. And I think we've now been joined by the same pair of hosts.
Well, it depends. Can you hear us?
We
Yes,
can.
we can.
Oh, because we joined you briefly about 30 seconds ago, but you couldn't hear us at all. So,
Ah.
yeah, I suspect there are technical problems beyond what we control here going on at the moment. Although it's just like everything else, we're going to be so slick in a few weeks' time, let alone a few months' time. So, I thought that was great, by the way, Josh. You didn't hear me say that the first time. And I think lots of people are rediscovering their creativity. And I think rediscovering art and culture. And it's been very interesting that, as with key worker jobs, the things that people were valuing least have suddenly become not only very important, but I think their real value has been revealed for the first time. And we'll talk a bit more in a minute about our Join In From Home program, where the poetry activity is just one of a whole number of different things that you can do, whatever you're good at and interested in, or indeed if you want to learn something new. We've had a contribution from our associate theatre company, Act Up Newham. Act Up Newham are an inclusive drama company. Most of them are in isolation, and of course, at the moment, everybody's in quarantine. So they explained to us a bit last week about how they're now working via Skype and having group Skype meetings. And they've set themselves a challenge to make a little documentary every week about how they're doing, and also to do a creative project. So I'm going to show one of the documentaries next week, and we'll keep in touch with their progress. But let's see if we can play their film, which is called very timely Isolation, and it's a poetry film.
I'm going to stay at home because of the coronavirus, but I'm going to be with you on Skype.
Isolation creates positive activities.
Isolation is too depressing.
Isolation, you ought to act with your friends.
In isolation, you find your true friends.
This is Gordon.
At home with me and my friends on the computer.
We
are
We are
together.
all together.
Together.
So I thought that was great.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fantastic piece of work. I mean, and the technical wizardry that went into all that multi-screen stuff going on as well.
I'm always so impressed with Act Up New. When I first met them, they were sort of, an organised group, but not a group with a legal structure or anything else. And one of the things that really characterises Newham outside of Stratford is no cultural spaces. And these guys were able to just come along with people of every impairment group and none, use a projector and a couple of screens for flats, and bingo, there was their production. So
Yeah.
they've just got better and better, but they're always very innovative. I know when Hannah was telling us a bit, I think I was going to say last week, but we've actually, yes, I think it was last week, just last week. But Hannah was telling us a bit about how they'd managed to make a whole project with a group in Chile just using Skype. So that experience, I think, has really sort of brought them on. And I'm really looking forward to seeing next week's project. And also the documentaries. I'm just going to get Julie to hold the mic a moment, because having said on Monday that I hadn't been writing anything myself, I ended up writing something yesterday for Virtual Poetry Group as well. So I'm just going to find that.
So I think while Ju finds that, I was just
She's got it.
remind people that actually it isn't Wednesday today, despite what you think it is, because we're all lost in time completely. So it is actually Thursday and not Wednesday.
Yes, it would have been Wednesday, but Wednesday was when I wrote it anyway. And this is called Metamorphosis Paused, and it was really inspired by, I think a lot of people are getting irritated by some of the language being used at the moment. A cocoon is a miraculous creation containing everything needed to survive. A grub is reborn in blissful unconsciousness, emerging with unimagined abilities, soaring on wings to a richer new life ahead. Caterpillars do not lose their rights when they enter into their cocoons. Caterpillars do not need to prove larvae status in order to eat. Caterpillars do not have to worry about how to wash their hand splints. Caterpillars do not struggle when they try to make a telephone call. Caterpillars are not abandoned without masks and gloves for their carers. Cocoons are insulated against dealing with officialdom. Cocoons do not rock with emotion nor shake with fatigue. Cocoons do not crack with every essential delivery. Cocoons do not splinter with every essential visitor. Cocoons promise futures, not lives perhaps permanently on hold. Cocooned is not waiting anxiously for neighbours to go in so you can clear up after your assistant's dog in safety. Cocooned is not being enraged by reckless politicians and the selfishness of people sauntering past your front door. Cocooned is not always missing the people you care about. Cocooned is not being in fear for the lives of those you love. Cocooned is not having rows with the loved ones who are present. Cocooned is not sweating with panic each time the doorbell rings. Cocooned is not being breathless with pain as you cope alone. Cocooned is not being ever watchful for approaching death. Shrouded round in dread, we are not cocooned, we are suspended.
Cool. Powerful.
So not the happiest little poem, but you never know what's going to come out, really, do you?
I know.
So Julie actually said she found it hilarious for reasons I'll leave her to explain.
Well, I think it's self-evident. Interestingly, the dogs are watching the television downstairs while we're up here doing this, and I've put on the film Cocoon for them. Synchronicity.
You could have just live streamed this to your telly, and
Yeah.
that would have really, then they'd have just thought they were with you.
Or they might have got quite wound up. They're not always so happy about things like TV. I mean, I was listening to you talking about the NHS clap, and I thought absolutely, but unfortunately, what it does with the animals is get them really upset because they're suddenly, with all this quiet, everybody's outside banging pots and things and clapping. So
Yeah.
we kind of do virtual claps on social media and spend the rest of the time calming the dogs down.
Say something about that. I wanted to say something about that because I am an ex-nurse and I have some. Obviously, I've not been part of a pandemic or anything like it, but I'm mindful because I did staff in intensive care that it's not always the staff that need all the clapping, it's the patients. And I think somewhere along the line, we're so busy sort of sanctifying the medical staff. And quite rightly, we should be grateful to them. We should be pleased that they're making so much effort. But we shouldn't ever forget the patients in and out of this because they don't have a choice either. They're just stuck there and they're having to go through what they're having to go through and hoping to come out of it the other side. And I just think, we should be mindful of the whole picture, not just part of it.
I think that's a really good point. And, particularly coming from London and Birmingham, I mean, we have over 600 people in hospital in Newham now, which is just unimaginable and it can only get worse. So I think it's that time where we just think about the importance of staying at home and, this idea that you're entitled to an hour's daily exercise. I mean, of course, if you need a mental health break, then I think that's what that exercise period should be used for. But the idea that it's almost sanctioned that you have a right to go out, I mean, certainly in Newham, it's just impossible to go out without breaching the 2-meter rule, isn't, and I think, this sort of all this advice about one size fits all, it doesn't really fit around here. And I think that's why certain areas are seeing this real escalation, because actually you can't follow the government's advice and behave safely. Every time we have a delivery like this morning, everybody walking past is closer than 2 meters away. And whatever precautions you take, you just can't get away from that fact. And then you see as well, they're kind of talking on their phones, so they're spitting in the air, or they're walking together, spitting away. And you just think, isn't this just the perfect Easter to snuggle down, eat lots of chocolate, watch lots of TV, and only go out if you absolutely have to? It would make so much difference to the NHS next week and the number of people who are going to get infected. I mean, what's the perspective from Birmingham, Robin, where, I know after London, you've got the biggest number of cases in the Black Country?
I don't know really, and I say that honestly. I mean, in as much as that we are cocooned, and we watch the daily, West Midlands today, you know, being our local BBC News program. But it's kind of the same as everywhere. I mean, I think you know, there's a massive issue about a care home where 19 residents have died or something like that already in one care home. I'm sure that was a Midlands thing, you know, and there are 50 odd people living there, and they're not, you know, and you know, not a number of the staff have already come down with the virus because of the proximity, and you know, and the essential proximity, you know. I mean, otherwise you just, you know, there's people, you know, there are people with, you know, conditions that may well have come around through age and or, you know, existing in disability impairments, but you know, it's just kind of really sad. And I think, you know, what we're getting is the whole do your best to keep those social distancing. But you know, if you know, I think, as I said the other day, you know, we are lucky enough to have space around where we live, that you know, we don't have to be 2 meters closer, you know, closer than 2 meters to anyone we don't choose to be. So we're not choosing to be, I should add that. But you know, somewhere, you know, the centre of Birmingham, you know, and where, you know, people live in some very squalid conditions. I mean, there are a couple of places that I know of that are, I don't know, I'd call them halfway houses or whatever, but they've got, you know, people who have come to this country, you know, in recent times, you know, and there's a place we go past on the way back from swimming, usually, you know, and you go past the windows, and the bed, they're 3 high bunk, you know, you can see in the window as you go through, and they're tiny rooms with triple bunk beds in them, with all full of grown adults sharing these spaces, who are now not going to be able to be at work. So they're all in those spaces, and if, you know, and if one person gets infected in somewhere like that, then everywhere is. And I hate to think what's happening to the people who are homeless, or you know, whatever definition you use for that. But again, you know, in normal times we drive from home to work, and go through a number of sets of traffic lights where there are always homeless people, you know, looking for whatever, you know, food, money they can get from people stopping at the lights. Actually, what's happening to those people now? Because, you know, they probably, you know, they're still going to be homeless, but they haven't got anyone, there's no one out on the roads, or very few people out for them to sustain. So, you know, it's yet another kind of perhaps less obvious impact of what the coronavirus is bringing to everybody.
Yeah, I wonder if actually the poorer areas are making more effort, because certainly, although there's been some tragedies, Newham has now managed to move every homeless family, I believe, that was in shared accommodation into self-contained accommodation, and have set up a number of hubs for single homeless people, which is really encouraging. I mean, and I think, you know, we need to sort of praise those efforts. But again, I think if you've got a roof over your head and food on the table, there is actually no need to go out unless you feel that for your mental health you absolutely have to. What we've started to do is for care, you know, virtual watching, darling, haven't we? Virtual watching. So this is a little film about Precious, Julie's assistant's dog, going into the garden so we can see what's growing out there, because it is indeed such a small yard that it's just impossible. Even if you're in the middle of it, you would be not much more than 2 meters away. So I tend to go out in the sort of early hours or midnight to pick up the dog mess and leave it at that. But let's see if we can see Precious. And Julie, I'm going to put us onto audio only. I'm going to hide Robin, and I'm going to put Precious on so you can give us a bit of a commentary.
Precious going through the cat flap into the garden in search of the sun. Oh yes, there's a dog barking at the bottom of the road. That needs a shake. Having a little mooch around here. Oh, she can hear herself downstairs, so she's joining into herself. So there's a bit of woofing from downstairs. Brother's shouting, so she's looking for brother. That's Jazz, who is currently missing but barking somewhere that needs investigating. Oh, where is he? Where's he gone? I don't know. He should be down here. No, he's not here. Oh, where is he? I could hear him a minute ago. No, I don't know where he is. Oh, yes, that's him. Yes, I can hear him. Oh, where is he? Everybody's barking at me. I think I should bark. Oh, no, perhaps I should go in.
It is. Oh, here we are. Even better. Yes, we were going to show that a bit later, but I thought it just chimed in with what we were talking about. I have to say, that was edited from 3 minutes to 1, but the other 2 minutes that we took out consisted entirely of either staring under the bottom of the shed in the belief that there might just be some kind of animal there, even though she knows there isn't, or just standing looking into space, which was also quite interesting in terms of knowing what the dogs do. But we're going to be continuing to film that. I understand the Japanese always have these cherry blossom ceremonies, and this year what they're doing is virtual cherry blossom. And I looked out the window this morning and realized my lilac had flowered and thought how lovely to take some photographs. So yeah, I think we should all be doing, if you can't get into an outdoor space but you can see one, it's such a beautiful time of year, isn't it? You know, there's a very early spring, but I think it's looking as good as it's ever going to look at the moment, even if we're looking out through glass. I'm going to hand the microphone over to Julie to chat and see if I can find our Join In From Home program to show you.
Okay. I was going to say, Julie, that actually our cherry blossom is currently just coming up. I did contemplate doing an outside broadcast, but I wasn't sure how the lighting would work. So maybe that's something we'll venture towards in a forthcoming episode.
I think you should just go for it, because you know the lighting was very variable, as Precious sort of darted here, there, and everywhere. But you still get the sense of the environment. And I think, you know, if your cherry blossom's coming out, for goodness sake, show us. I think that sounds lovely.
I just like the look under the shed again, just in case.
Just in case.
Yeah, I can relate to that when you're looking for my keys.
Yeah, I think. Well,
I check the settee 5 times and they're not there, and I keep checking, hoping that they've appeared, and then kind of the 7th time they are then there. Like, I'm sure they weren't there the first 6 times that I looked.
I'm writing a poem, which is a rewrite of one that I wrote many, many years ago, called "The House Has Stolen My Pen." And I think, you know, sort of like there's an element at which somehow or other the house steals things, and I don't know quite how it happens. Perhaps it's part of your time continuum, whatever it is that you were discussing earlier on.
Yeah, I found that very mysterious this week, actually. The amount of things that can disappear when you don't leave the house, and you actually feel that it's actually really, really tidy, because it's quite a small house. Well, I suppose it's a cottage, really. And in terms of access, it needs to be really tidy. But yeah, the amount of things walking off. What I'm going to try and do is put our Join In From Home program up and talk you through some of the things that we've got on offer. Right, so bear with me just a minute. On our website, all of our Join In From Home program can be found linked from this page. And thanks to the wonders of technology, I'm now going to swap over and have a look at that screen and take you through it. And just to point out right from the beginning, you can join in with our program and apply for our commissions, indeed, wherever you are in the world. And for most things, whether you're disabled or not, we really are an organisation for everybody. So in addition to the activities on this page, we've also got watch films and listen to music. We were talking about the Spotify lists on Monday. So what we've tried to do is map the activities to the things that we would usually do year round with disabled people. because we also want people to become more aware of our activities so that when we are back up and running again, whenever that is, you can come along and meet us in real life. So the first thing we have is join in with the art club. This is a lovely project. You can do it with whatever you have at home. You just draw around your hands onto a piece of card. Any old packaging will do. Turn them over so that you don't see the outline once you've, so draw around your hands, cut them out, turn it over so that you don't see the outline that you've drawn if you haven't been too careful with the scissors, and then just decorate it with whatever you want. And that could be pens, it could be any kind of art things. You might want to stick food on in patterns, literally anything. Take a photograph and send it to us for our international installation. Usually we'd say send us the hands, but for obvious reasons we're not doing that at the moment. But another really popular activity around this time with our family activities is just making a spring bonnet. Again, out of whatever you've got, but paper plates make a very good start. If you have a stapler, maybe staple some ribbon on to tie under your chin, and then just again decorate it with whatever you've got. But if you feel a bit more active, then the dance club, who usually meets on the fourth Monday of every month to create mass dance for the screen, are also very keen on things like paper plates, old paper bags, and so on. The activity we have here is make your own mask using whatever you've got available, film yourself dancing in it, and then send us your film. As well as showing it on our social media, including this channel, we will be selecting the best to go forward to the Disability Film Festival in December, where they'll be eligible for an award. And if you're feeling really kind of twitchy and you're desperate to get outside but can't this weekend, there's also a warm-up that you can link to here. And I know we did talk a bit more on Monday about other activities that you can do, and that program is, the recordings available on their page. Usually, because the Easter holidays are coming up, we would be running a family activity day, and these next 3 activities are really popular for all of our family activity days. So we have make a sock puppet, and I think that's particularly relevant when the house steals your socks. This is what you do with what's left. Then we have make your own percussion instruments. There's a whole range of different things that you can do. And when you've finished, you can actually play along and learn about carnival percussion with our percussion workshop films. Anybody who's interested in filmmaking, we've got a challenge to make a video with the theme of home and share it with us. And again, the best will go through to the film festival. And that can be anything you wish. It can be a drama, a documentary, dance, animation, artist, film. We've already talked about the Poetry Club. And just finally, as we say at the bottom, remember there's lots of YouTube videos and websites where you can learn and improve filmmaking and photography skills. It's not how expensive your phone or camera is that matters, it's what you do with it. And if you've made films but you're not really sure how to get them to us, then drop us an email. It's just tv@together2012.org.uk. So, and with the wonders of modern technology, I'm going to bring us back into the screen, hide this, show Robin.
That was seamless.
Well, about as seamless as you can be when there's so few of us. I think even London Live, who never fail to impress me with their professionalism, I think have at least 4 people running their TV studio, not the presenter. Yet again, I'm going to hand the microphone over to Julie and just rearrange our computer.
I can say something now. I've got the mic. It's the power. It's wonderful. I think that the top needs to go back a bit.
Okay.
That's better. Thank you.
There we go.
I'd lost the top of my head. Just thinking about your fishes again, because these things stay in my mind. I thought angelfish ate other fish.
Oh, I've told it not to.
So are your children as obedient?
No.
Well, he hasn't eaten Emily yet.
Well, that's true, actually. I saw a picture of her.
That's only because she's stronger than I am. She'd win in the fight.
I think moving swiftly away from the subject of cannibalizing and eating fish, because we do have a younger audience as well. As you say, this is Thursday. Usually we would have a program on a Wednesday and a program on a Friday, and to flag up some of the things that we would be doing next week on a Friday to get people to prepare, we have a feature called Dressing Up to Go Out to Stay In. We all dress up to go out to stay in on a Friday and tell each other what we're dressing up for, and we encourage other people to do so and send us their photos. We add that this is not like formal Fridays as created in New Zealand. We do not, well, you're very welcome to dress up to go to the opera and send us your photo, but you're equally welcome to dress up to go to the moon, go underwater, go to a job you're not actually going to be able to get to at the moment, whatever you fancy to wear. On a Wednesday, which is yesterday, we do have a look at a little bit of sport, and we have our Paralympics. And before we have a sort of roundup to see if there is anything, is there any sport worth watching at all over Easter? I think possibly not, apart from our Paralympics. We're just going to explain a little bit about that for anybody who hasn't watched the show before. Do you have your teddy still, or a new teddy?
We have.
Easter?
We've retired the original teddy, and this is
the new one.
Fred the Ted.
Fred the Ted.
Fred the Ted.
It was
God, that's
on the
almost
fly
worse than-
creativity there, Dad.
So this is Liz representing London 2012, and Liz is going to retire along with her medal. Do you want to take Liz's medal off, Julie? And this week, slightly subverting the going on a virtual bear hunt thing, I've got Bunny. So as with your dog last week, this is Bunny, the Easter Bunny. So Birmingham 2022, in the shape of Fred the Ted, is going to be playing Bunny. And I'm just going to put the race up. So the way this works, you choose a colour. I've recorded the race earlier, so let's just have a look here and see. Now, do you have a good enough picture of the racetrack before I start the race? So I think you're going to have to make a decision very, very quickly. Do you want the competitor on the right or the competitor on the left?
Oh, left.
Virtual sport.
Your left.
The left of the screen. What would that be? Stage left, darling. Stage left. So you're going for stage left.
I would have gone stage right.
Yeah, stage left.
Oh, see, I would have said stage right. Stage left lost last week.
Yeah, stage left is that one.
All right, if I'm pointing at the screen, do you want me to point with my right hand or my left hand? Because you can't change your mind once you've seen who's won.
We'll have the one closer to your knee, please, June. On the video.
Okay, so let's try again with all of this mirroring. If you were looking at the screen, would you want the right side or the left side, Josh?
It's the right side
right
as we're
side.
looking at it.
Yeah.
As you're looking at it.
Yeah.
The right hand side. Yeah.
Righty So
I've overridden your poor decision making.
That's still stage left.
you're bound to be right, as it were. Oh yes, Julian, you're right as well. Shall we see the race? Right. Which medal are we playing for? As you've got so many medals of your own, Robin. We
still haven't we haven't won the one from last week yet.
Oh yes,
So
of course. I forgot we won last time.
Yes.
So we have our gold, our plastic gold medal from London 2012 as given to us by our mayor.
And ours
Here
is
we
a
go.
Stourbridge Swimming Club one.
And they're off.
from our end, we won.
Yes, I believe it was Birmingham 2022 has the right to wear the medal for the next week. In the meantime, I will at least put Bunny up so that we have a bunny and a teddy up for the next week for the virtual bear hunt.
And obviously, because all it takes these days is a gold medal, a rise, Sir Fred.
He hasn't bitten it yet. He hasn't officially won.
Oh yeah. Sorry. He's checking it out.
There you go.
Is your medal gold? Huh. Well, Robin has a lot of gold medals, but we won't talk about that now. Given we're not exactly running out of time, but I have a feeling that if we discussed Robin's medals, we might be here for a very long time indeed. Josh, did you see anything worth watching in terms of sport over the weekend, or has everything been cancelled?
There's some virtual sport and some old sport. So the International Wheelchair Basketball Federation are showing some classic games. They've kind of deemed some of their best games from past Paralympics or championships on Facebook and YouTube. I believe British Swimming, to celebrate the Diving World Series that was supposed to happen in London, did a highlighters diving series, which was some highlighters falling off of shelves into a sink. It's not as competitive as you would have thought, but that was
it's quite funny though.
It's quite entertaining.
Funny. Yeah.
That'll be on their Twitter, I believe. In terms of some kind of live sport, the NBA have been running a virtual tournament with some of their kind of star players playing the NBA kind of computer game against each other online. And in terms of some competition, although you can't really partake in this unless you are a powerlifter, but World Powerlifting are running an online competition, which they've called To Raise the Bar Together. And they're kind of raising money, and they're doing an online, you kind of submit your videos of your lifts, and they'll be kind of judged by a technical panel, and they're running that as a competition for their kind of registered athletes. So there is sport.
Yeah. I mean, for those of you that are into Formula One.
Yes, Formula One are doing virtual F1 races with a mix of kind of current and past drivers and celebrities. So you've got kind of, Charles Leclerc and Ben Stokes. So there's a real range of people that are in there.
Yeah, I mean, and they could always put lots of fishing on, because that would just like be sitting at home watching people doing nothing as well.
Yeah, there is that. I mean, Julie and I have been enjoying London Live, have been replaying the Thames Clipper races, but of course, really sadly for them, the actual race this year has had, I think they got into port and they went home again. So yeah, that's been halted in real life, but there's nothing like being out at sea on a virtual kind of wave, particularly when you don't have to worry about any of the kind of wind or the seasickness or the deprivation. And so we've been enjoying that. I mean, Josh, you're a gamer, and I think it's probably time that everybody started taking up gaming who's into sport. Are you going to tell us a bit more about that next week, perhaps?
I can do.
I would really enjoy it. I mean, Julie sits there and plays the most irritating games on her iPad for hours at a time, and we're only 3 weeks into isolation, and I'm already finding it confusing, shall I say, in its appeal. But I understand as well there's an awful lot of developments around accessible computing gaming equipment, isn't there?
Yeah, Microsoft, I'm sure there are other ones, but the one that I know of off the top of my head, Microsoft run a whole division, and I can't remember the name off the top of my head, unfortunately, that's all around developing adaptive controllers and kind of adaptive pads for people to play games on. They have some, if you can go on YouTube and find the videos, but it's things like joysticks, kind of controllers that you can control with your chin, and then kind of big pad buttons for people that don't have a lot of movement or kind of fine motor skills to use a standard controller, and all sorts of kind of various bits and pieces. I think it's kind of the modular system that you can kind of get what you need to make the most of what you can do. And I think they do some stuff that's kind of the split controller. So if you've got a friend, you control half of it, whether that's the movement, and then your friend can do the shoot button, if you like, as a way to kind of get people that wouldn't necessarily be able to access it normally, to be able to kind of play games.
And I think they're doing quite a lot with eye tracking technology now as well, aren't they?
They may be. I haven't seen that, but that doesn't mean it isn't there.
Or it probably more likely means that I've seen news about it, but it's not really
Yes,
there in real life.
Yeah, no, I haven't seen it, but that doesn't. Yeah, if you're saying it's there, then I'll believe you.
Well, not necessarily. I'm like I say, I might have just seen the news that it's in development, but we'll definitely do more research around that. And gamer communities are big virtual communities, whether people are in isolation or not, aren't they? So they might be really nice virtual communities to begin to get to be part of.
Yeah, there's lots of, and then even before, as you were saying, before we kind of went into lockdown, there's lots of people that stream video games and kind of gameplay online, and they normally have kind of live chats that you can jump into, and that's, yeah, I mean, you kind of just pick a game that you like, or find a personality that you enjoy, that you think is funny, and yeah, there's many options for kind of all age ranges, from kind of young kids through to kind of things that have swearing and stuff in for the older demographic.
And I think, I mean, probably unsurprisingly, it's actually really difficult to get hold of a games console at the moment, just because, what are kids going to do?
Yeah, everyone's suddenly,
and I'm not just kids, I shouldn't say that, I mean lots of adults. I mean, Josh and I have a...
Speaking of virtual sport, we're 7 years into a deep golf rivalry.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we could start next week by researching some games that are easy to get into if you've never done it before, like me, but also things that you can access via a phone or a computer or a browser. Because I think even if people could buy consoles at the moment, it's out of the reach of most of us. So, but on the other hand, I'm sure there's a lot of other people with consoles that they've never actually started to use properly, and this weekend could, I think, indeed be a good weekend to try. I mean, this is just stereotyping, but I operate on the internet as G90, so I can, and I just hazard a guess there's a few gamers out there that don't actually know we're in isolation or lockdown, because they wouldn't usually come out of their rooms for a month anyway. So
possibly.
Yes, I think there's only 2 communities that are already used to this, and one of them are people like me who are housebound anyway, and the others are people who just really don't need much more than their computer, and maybe only order the shopping in once a month in the first place. So what else is there for people to do at home this weekend apart from sport, gaming, and our join in from home activity program if you feel active?
I mean, I think, I mean, obviously, if you live on your own, it is a bit harder, and that's, I think at a time like this, if you're already isolated, then being further isolated by not having any choice, or not being able to have PAs come in, or carers or family members, that's probably the hardest time. And maybe it is about, visiting a book you once read, if you've got access to books. I mean, there's some of these things, it's very easy to presuppose what people do have in their homes, and so I apologize if I do that at all, but start letter writing again, write memoirs if you are on your own, how you're feeling, it's also a very good way of, you know, maintaining that little bit of balance in your own mind. So if you are feeling, or whatever you're feeling, really, you know, putting it down in words. But in households, I mean, you know, I'm old enough to have been a child before there were computer games as such, you know, and we could spend hours and hours with one balloon, you know, doing races around the house, having to, you know, bat it under the table, over chairs, through windows, or whatever, you know, just really kind of get back to that inventive, you know, all those things that are in computer games. People have to invent them, but we'll kind of not uninvent them, or, you know, what's the word, disengineer or something like that, reverse engineer. But, you know, go back and thinking, well, that was fun. It's fun watching, doing that on a computer, but how do we make that at home? How do we play? You know, we used to, my dad used to absolutely thrash me at pea shooter war games, which was, you know, standing toy soldiers up on the rucked up carpet and firing at them with the pea shooter. And he could do it beyond. I know. I mean, he was a marksman. That was when he was much younger. But I'm not sure that shooting a gun in the army and using a pea shooter are necessarily correlate. But who knows?
They don't, but I kind of have a feeling that bringing pea shooters into East London might be a kind of interesting reversal. Your description reminded me that yet again we need to issue an apology before we finish, because of course we haven't been including audio description. I think we all described ourselves on Monday, and I might just ask you to do that again as you say goodbye. But also looking back to the edited highlights, the isolation poem was performed by people ranging in age from their early 20s to their mid 70s. Majority people of colour, but from all sorts of different groups. Precious is a Westie Poodle cross, so she's a little black scruffy dog, and so is her brother. And she was charging around a little yard that's got gravel and flowering shrubs and plants in pots and a few things like ladders that shouldn't have been left there, but are kind of, you know, victims of isolation. The Paralympic sport is this week's was two wind up racing grannies in a little box originally. I think this is Formula One granny racing. But that's just because I've got a bad sense of humour and a big collection of wind up toys. And if I hand over to you, Robin, perhaps you could just visually very, very quickly talk about your house in the film at the beginning, as well as saying goodbye, and then we'll just say a final goodbye.
Okay, so hi, listeners, as it were. So our house, we started in our kitchen, which is just quite a nice space. We have a wheelchair accessible bungalow, which does make the rooms look quite spacious, but there are 4 of us in our home who are all wheelchair users. So without space, we could starve to death in the corridor outside the kitchen, just trying to get through. We had a quick look around the kitchen and looked into a Joshua's fish tank of old, actually, sort of very cube shaped, with a goldfish in it and a couple of others, but they didn't want to say hello. We then went into the lounge. It's a nice lounge with a fireplace and a daughter. Like, you know, a lot of lounges have fireplaces and daughters. Swung around, did a very quick look into our garden. And for those of you who did see, we said we are very lucky to have a very green space out the back of our house. And then we met 2 cats who I think are something. Now, what are they? Anyway,
some age,
yeah,
between 0 and
believe
10.
in me. I know we're supposed to be running out of time, but if you ever do a BSL exam, British Sign Language exam, and your examiner says, "What colour is your cat?" do not try to describe tortoiseshell in BSL. It is really not a good idea. So anyway, with 2 cats, they are sisters, very similar looking. then we just sort of came through to my office space, saw Emily's fish tank, which is more rectangular and has a host of fish. And if you heard Drew asking about the angelfish, there is an angelfish in there which is obedient and doesn't eat all the baby fish in there or the smaller fish. And then we looked at, kind of swung round to the space we're working in at the moment, and speaking to you from, which is just a white corner. So there you go. That was from me. So hopefully that was helpful.
And do you want to also sign off with a brief description of yourself?
Oh, yeah. If any of you know what George Clooney looks like,
We look nothing
then-
like that.
Oh, that's still my lines.
Yeah.
Still my lines. Okay.
Have that starting point and remove every aspect.
Okay. All right. For those of you who remember Benny from Crossroads, no. So yeah, I just without the hat. So I am mid-50s, silvery white hair, and I did dress up to not go anywhere today whilst wearing my coach's swim shirt, because I did some video chat online and it made me feel more like the coach that I used to be while wearing my black and white coaching top.
And what about you, Josh?
I'm sporting a lovely maroon Sheffield University t-shirt. Kind of represent the university when I'm not there until September. Just to remind myself that I am a uni student, and I do have lots of work to do. So if I just wear it on my chest, it might remind me to get on with the long list of things that I have to do. But yeah, I'm 24, blonde hair, very George Clooney-like, strong. No, not really. But yeah, that's me.
More George from Rainbow.
Thanks, mate. I would have gone kind of zippy, but you know.
Well, I'm Drew Gosling. I've got short red hennaed hair that's getting longer and no doubt will continue to get longer. I've got black hand splints with bracelets, and my t-shirt, which I really chose because it's one of the few that's still been ironed, is turquoise with a kind of bright yellow cuffs and bright yellow collar. And indeed, if I could turn around in my wheelchair, which I can't, it's got a pink back. But I think it's very spring-like, and it's a very spring-like day. And I'm 57.
And Julie, I've got, if you think of the female version of George Clooney.
Yeah, I could say, I didn't want to say this time.
I've got silver and gold hair. I've got dark glasses, and I've got a navy blue t-shirt, a little polo shirt on. Best of Primark, actually. And that's me.
So I think that just remains for us all to wave goodbye and say we'll be back on Wednesday.
Have a good weekend.
Bye from Sir Fred. Bye.